Hey folks, welcome back to another edition of Spotlights, a semi-regular short-form show where one of the hosts chooses a single topic and we talk about it for roughly an hour. And with Australia's premier satellite event, Cancon, coming up real soon, as in this weekend, it's the perfect opportunity to discuss how we as players prepare for a big event. And on the show tonight, we have a special guest, someone new to the hobby, relatively new to the hobby, who will be attending their first Infinity at Cancon this weekend. Say hello to Danny.
Hello, everybody. What's going on?
Yay!
What a
No
delight.
problem. Oh, yes, I am delighted to have you on the show tonight. It's just the two of us tonight. And yeah, we're gonna get stuck into a bit about talking about preparing for events. Now, we have done a similar episode to this in the past, but it's usually been with the hosts, and we're all sort of, we regard ourselves as veterans, but we figured tonight would be a good episode, good opportunity to bring somebody on who is, I guess, a bit of a new player and who is going to be attending like their first big event, and see if their perspective is different from our perspective.
That's definitely new with an asterisk. I've been in the hobby quite a while, but very new to Infinity. So I've only gone to a couple of events. So yeah, hopefully it's a fresh face and a fresh look at the whole
Preparing?
preparation.
Yeah, preparation.
Journey.
The journey, yes. Well, there will be a journey because we'll all be journeying. Well, not me, but we'll all be journeying to Canberra, the capital of Australia, in like just under a week's time.
Very shortly, yeah.
Very shortly, yeah. I've been seeing a lot of posts on socials about people last minute painting their armies for the event, so it's quite exciting to see. Yeah, that last dash to the finish line to get everyone's armies ready for the event and the inevitable drive or fly over to the capital.
Yeah, it's really exciting for Infinity and also for just the tabletop wargaming hobby as a whole. Like, it's a really great sort of gathering and meeting point, and a lot of different game systems use it to like kick off the year. It's like the first event on the calendar. It's one of the biggest usually. So yeah, it's very exciting times.
Yeah, and it will be actually the first CanCon. I guess there was a CanCon last year, but it was sort of COVID affected.
Yeah, it was a little bit COVIDy, and so I think this is the first one where the majority of people are like more comfortable. There's a lot of people I know didn't go specifically last year because it was a terrible idea.
Yeah, so this will be nice to get the first one that'll be sort of normal, if normal is whatever we call it these days. But first, let's get into talking a little about getting to know you a little bit, Danny, because you've not been on the show before. Many people won't know who you are. Some people may know who you are, not from Infinity as well, so that's quite interesting. So let's first of all, Danny, like, where are you from? Were you local?
I've been living in Melbourne for the last 10 years, sort of. Australian boy, travelled around a bit I was born in Warrnambool Hospital. No, we won't go that far back.
But you are a Victorian, though. Okay.
I am a Victorian. Yeah. I did spend an inordinate amount of time in Queensland, but I refute that heritage. That's I've abandoned Queensland for sure.
Those horrible potato scallop eating fiends.
That's right. How dare they?
And then you mentioned that you've been in the hobby for a while, but how long have you been playing Infinity?
Yeah, so I've been into tabletop wargaming for a good few years now, but Infinity is pretty recent for me. So I started playing Infinity this year? No, I mean like last year. Yeah, about 12 months ago. When was the first Nova Core last year? Because I stopped in March, I think.
No, it's June of last year.
Right. Okay. Because I started. That's right. Yeah. Because I started playing Infinity. I'd split the starter set with a friend, and and then a spot opened up. I joined all the group chats. I was very excited, and then a ticket opened up for Nova Core in Maitland. And I was like, you know what? I've been playing this game a week. Let's book flights, baby. So had a baptism of fire then, and then I've been to one or two events since then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was quite the baptism of fire. And then, so like, how did you get into Infinity? Like you said, you split it with a mate, but you must have obviously seen it around.
Yes, yeah. So Infinity has a really funny reputation of being like the serious wargamers wargame. I played Warhammer Fantasy a very little bit, and then got into Age of Sigmar when that came out. Played Lord of the Rings a little bit, or Middle Earth strategy battle game, and Infinity. I have always kind of heard rumors of, seen the models around, and been like, "Oh, that's awesome! That looks really cool," but being a bit scared of it because everyone I talked to that weren't Infinity players said, "Oh, it's so dense. The rules are so heavy. It's really hard to figure out how to. It's really unforgiving. It's a really hard game." So that's the reputation it had for me, like years ago. And then I got into it with a friend with one of the. Do I have it on the shelf? No, one of the starter sets, not Blackwind, but the previous one.
The Crimson Stone, the Nomad.
Crimson Stone. Yeah, yeah. Right. I split Nomads. I got the Nomad half and just played those missions with a friend. And after a night of like those very small four troop missions, or whatever, I was like, I'm in. This is me.
Oh, excellent.
It's good.
So you mentioned obviously Age of Sigmar was your game before that.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I funnily enough got into Age of Sigmar. Or my first tournament ever, in fact, was an Age of Sigmar tournament at Cancon a few years ago now, because of the Dwellers Below, which is another podcast I've actually featured on. So
I am aware of that podcast.
This is my first podcast.
Yeah, this is also not your first, because this will be going out live on YouTube as well. It's also not your first YouTube rodeo either. I've been told that you're quite an accomplished painter.
Oh well, thank you very much. I hope so. I've been painting for ages. No, but I employed myself throughout the sort of pandemic period as a commission painter, and then got really excited and interested about helping other people learn to paint, and like stuff that it's like a boogeyman for a lot of people. They get into the game and they're like, this is a great game and I want my models to look amazing, but then never paint them because it's like there's a few like kind of clunky steps to get through. And so I have a YouTube channel, which is very small and very delicate. Be nice to it. Danny.paints. It's just Danny Paints on YouTube. There's tutorials and stuff for a whole range of things. The last video is, in fact, Infinity Terrain, which you can play on at Throw the Dice in Geelong.
Yeah, good plug. Yeah, I did watch that video, and I'll be honest, that was my first introduction to your page. So I don't know what you've been doing before the pandemic. Maybe my algorithm's not quite lined up, and it's just starting to throw me things now because it's Infinity related. But yeah, that was a good video on the objective room. They actually look really good. Those 3D printed ones from Throw the Dice. So I might have to give myself one.
I've got to shout out whoever printed it, but Richard hasn't told me. So
right, yeah.
Oh well.
Well, we'll definitely post. We'll slap your handle in the show notes. But yeah, Danny Paints for anyone who wants to.
I'm gonna like double my subscriber count here. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, we have what 30 people who listen to this show, so do some math.
Absolutely, yeah, incredible.
Okay, so we've got.
Get into it. Let's
get into it. Let's get into it.
Enough about me.
That's what it's all about. This is a spotlight episode. We're not here to sleep with spiders. We are here to.
Is it PG, by the way? This
no, podcast? It's not. But I just figured I just wouldn't drop an F-bomb so early. But I don't know what came over me.
Maybe we can say fun.
Yeah, we can definitely. Okay. Right. All right. So we figured we'd like to get in the show as we'd love to get a new player perspective on preparing for a big event like this. Now you have said you've been to Novacore, but it was very much your first event on Infinity, and I'm sure you learned something from that. You have been to Cancon and you played AOS at Cancon.
Yeah.
But this will be your first time at Infinity at Cancon. So so what we're going to do is we're going to just start from the start, I guess, from when the point in which you decided to sign up, and then we'll walk it through to the basically until the event itself and what you plan on doing. So where did you hear about Cancon? Well, obviously we know where you hear about Cancon, but we'll just ask it anyway. Where did you hear about Cancon? You've been to Cancon before, but like how did you come about with Cancon?
Yeah, this is interesting because Cancon was also my first ever tabletop event ever. And I had been one of those people, and you're all out there. I know you're all out there. That you have like a friend, and you play games with your friend, or maybe it's your brother or your housemate, and then you just roll it up, and you just love the game, and then you want to take it like a little bit further, but it's actually really difficult. Like I found it, for me anyway, I found it really difficult to kind of or connect with the community, and then just like break that first barrier, because it feels like very strange if you're not a part of a community like that. It feels very strange to sort of introduce yourself to people and say, "Hi, I play a game that you play. Let's hang out." And that sounds crazy, but that's exactly how it works. Like, it's amazing. And so I had my one housemate friend that I played it was Age of Sigmar with, and I said, "There's an event on. It's in Canberra. Let's have a holiday. Let's go up, get an Airbnb. We'll just hang out. And if it's a terrible, terrible time, at least we were in Canberra for a weekend." And then we sort of just did that. And it was nice to have like a friend to do it with, to take that step and be like, okay, there's a whole group of people over there. They all know each other very well. They're all laughing and drinking and talking about the game that I really like playing. Let's go say hi. Which is really intimidating to do that for a lot of people, myself included. But once you do, it's a whole new world. It's Aladdin. It's great. I think regardless of what system you play, the wargaming space, the event space, the like tournament space is so welcoming, and not at all what I expected it would be going into it. Yeah, and so right. I just sort of jumped in and made risked for looking like a fool for an introduction or two, and then it kind of was like, oh, these are my people. Like I like the same things. We have shared experiences. This is going to be a fun weekend, and it was.
That's awesome. And then from then, I guess you would have met like people who were living in Melbourne, and you would have made contacts from Cancon back in Melbourne. That's how it started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so a couple of the guys I hung out with there and made friends with, like had a regular gaming night, and they were like, "Oh, you should just pop down for a game." And then I had people to play, and then it's just about comfortability, like as opposed to names on a screen or in a group chat. If you know who Bob and Steve and Smith are, then it's, I don't know, if it's just like, oh, I can post in this chat and put memes in, and it's fine. And then I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you had that community experience at like Australia's biggest in Asterix event, which is like quite a deep end to jump into, but at the same time it's not really that deep. It's everyone's very welcoming and supportive, and they're always looking to say hi to new faces.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be like, oh, here's another one. We've got another one, boys. One of us.
Right. Yeah, I think there is definitely that sort of really, I don't know, friendly tribalism going on, oh, one of us. Yes. I can talk to him about stuff that I can't talk to this about anybody else.
If I bring up toys at work.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, it's funny that you touched on that sort of that thing of like, I've never met you before, but you want to come around to my house and play a game? Like, it's such an yeah.
Literally.
And it happens, and people are like, yeah, sure, because it just is normal.
And then so to bring it to this Cancon, I've been to 2 previously, and then this one is kind of like doing it all over again with a new group of people, because I've met some players from other states and cities and stuff, but not really like hung out with any of them extensively. But I'm very excited to just like see the people behind the names on the screen, and the podcast and the YouTube videos and et cetera, where everyone sort of just comes together and hangs out.
So was that the had you sort of already decided that you're going to go to Cancon this year with the Infinity crew, or were you coerced by somebody in the Melbourne area?
I didn't have to be coerced at all. I didn't know whether or not the sort of the event at Cancon was a big one for Infinity, just generally, like, or if people were like, oh, not really, it's like 10 people or whatever. So I was like, I want to go to Cancon. I really hope I can play Infinity, but we'll see. And people were like, oh, the hype started building a few months ago, and I was like, we're in. We're absolutely in.
Yeah. So that's basically what made you. So yeah, I guess one of the questions I had then is like how important or how much of the sort of community that you're now in with the Infinity Victoria, Infinity Melbourne scene, sorry, prompted you to go to like Cancon. Like, would you have gone to Cancon as to play Infinity in the same vein as you did with Age of Sigmar?
I think so, yeah, but I don't think there's a crazy difference between one or another game system community, but and they're all great. That's me saying they're all great. But I feel like, and one of the reasons I was really excited when you said, "Hey, like let's talk about being a relatively new player to the system, um, and CanCon and like going to big tournaments," is that I just encourage absolutely everyone to just do it. Like, and even if you're going by yourself, or I don't know, like you're not very good at the game, or you think you're bad, or you're not a hyper competitive person, like the word tournament is sometimes scary, but for me anyway, like I know that, and there's an upper echelon, or not upper echelon, the pointy end of the competitive players that will go to win, and that's their drive, and that's what they've got to look forward to in that high end competitive, like edge shooting and really that tactical play, and really competing against other people. There's a huge adrenaline rush for that, and people absolutely love that. But even if you're not competitive, I think there's zero reason to not go to a tournament like CanCon. Like as we'll find out as we go a little bit deeper into this, I'm far from competitive in any aspect of Infinity.
which is great, because I feel like Lost Lieutenant, our podcast, do tend to focus on the ITS competitive aspect, and so it's really great to like talk to you tonight and get a bit more of a perspective of not to use. I don't like to use the word casual player because that feels like it doesn't. It feels what's the word I'm thinking of?
Like derivative or something.
Derivative, yes. But
I don't know. I welcome my label as a casual gamer. But yeah, well, but that's the thing as well about podcasts is I love, as a casual gamer, I love listening to people who put in the time and effort at the pointy end to really work out what units do and what you can do, and like the possibilities and tactical strategy that is involved. I love listening to that because I'm not going to sit down with a rule book personally and like work stuff out or like cook up the most crazy combo, but I like hearing about it.
No, that's it. Yeah, definitely. So we'll move on. So yeah, obviously, yeah, you've said you're going to go, but we've highlighted the fact that Canberra is about an 8 hour drive away from Melbourne. So, the working out of the transportation, how did that go?
Yeah. Luckily, I bummed a lift. Basically, I've got a friend who is driving up for another game system, and his company pays for his petrol. So
oh, decent. All right, okay, that's
so I went the budget option. But flights from anywhere, if you book early enough, to be honest, flights from anywhere to Canberra, fine. It's a very a small. If you're going to go somewhere for a weekend, it's a relatively small investment to
yeah. And then yeah. So I guess like for not everybody, it's for some people it's just like an easy right. We'll drive, or I'll fly.
if you're in Sydney,
I
it's
can
much
afford.
closer.
I can afford the flights. And then accommodation wise, like a lot of the time, people in CanCon tend to like share, like try and get like a big like 8 share or something like that. So what have you gone for this year?
Yeah, similar. So I have my fingers in all sorts of little pies of wargaming collectives, just because I play too many systems, as I'm sure a lot of people can commiserate with. But so there's a few people playing, I think 4 or 5 different systems independently, but we all sort of know each other, and they got onto. Or there's one guy in that group that got onto the accommodation super early, and that's something I definitely recommend. If someone, months out, a year out, however long it is, you hear about it and decide you want to go and make a weekend of it. If you see someone doing hey, let's share an Airbnb, jump in. Split an Airbnb with people, it's pretty budget. Like and the thing is also with a wargaming tournament like CanCon, you don't need crazy good accommodation. Somewhere with aircon is probably a must. But apart from that, like I've shared rooms and stuff. Like I've been in bunk beds in Airbnbs for the last one, and I think the one before as well. Because I find that I spend so little time at the Airbnb. It's a great place to go back and sleep and rest and recharge. But it's such a full-on weekend of socializing and hanging out, and there's always something going on, whether it's like, a dinner arranged by the players, or if you want to go check out the con or whatever else it is. Like, there's no sense splashing on a big fancy place. Unless you tend to host the parties, in which case...
You got to get the good stuff. You got and that's, I think it's
actually,
like...
The Airbnb I had last time I went in 2020, maybe, had a pool, and that was lovely.
Holy shit. Okay, that's something that we're going to have to like think about for next year, I reckon.
Having a splishy in the pool in the very hot weather in Cancon was very nice.
Oh my God. Yeah, you've just like tapped onto something next year.
Morning swims. Yeah, it was amazing. We were like, oh, we're never going to use that pool. And we all swam in it every day.
Excellent. Yeah, it comes back to the community as well. Like, often with our area, there'll be somebody who will like take the reins and go, all right, I'm booking this Airbnb. It's got 3 bedrooms. Like, one of them's a double. Someone's gonna have to like, go top to tail or spoon or whatever. Like, who's in first in, best dressed, and then you'll often get like that person who's like, is there space left? And they're like, there's a couch, and you're like, that'll do. Like, they don't.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, I just need somewhere to stay, and I don't want to pay $150 a night for like a Holiday Inn. I just want
100%,
like
and that's
somewhere cheap.
That's the beauty of like the I don't know, the community as well around it. And also, if you're listening to this and you don't feel like you know anyone well enough to share a place with them, or you do, everyone's nice.
I'd second that. I'd second that. Yeah, my first CanCon, I think I knew one person in the entire, the person who invited me to CanCon was the only person I knew, and then I just was in a room with these other 5 dudes who had no idea who they were, but they were all lovely, and they're all playing different systems, and I had a great time.
I don't know. It's there's the smaller sort of system-based community of like Infinity players or whatever, but the wider wargaming community are also just really lovely. Like my first Infinity tournament ever, earlier, or not last year now, I guess. I grabbed a ticket because it seemed like hot property, and everyone was like, "This is a great event." And then I was like, "Well, where do I stay?" And I ended up sharing a room with a lovely gentleman by the name of Joshua, who I didn't really know that well at the time. Like, we'd met a couple of times. We played some games at the regular, like, weekly wargaming club. And then he was like, "Yeah, there's a spare bed in my room, dude." Because I was gonna crash on your couch, actually. You very kindly offered that one up.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got there, actually. And I was like, "Oh, I'm just sleeping on the couch where Kev is." And Josh was like, There's a bed, dude. There's a bed in my room. Sleep in that. It was so good. It was so good. And now me and Josh are good mates. He's a lovely boy.
Yeah, so yeah, it's great stories. I mean, obviously, in like CanCon as a con, there's lots of different systems there, but I think that speaks, that's just the same as any other Infinity event out there, any interstate event you have to travel to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Josh is a great guy.
Don't say that so begrudgingly, Kevin.
Okay, we'll move on. I guess
Spotlight. It's quick, Ken.
It's quick. We're getting a bit sentimental here. Selecting an army for the event is is often a thing that people will deliberate on for a long time. Sometimes right up until the very night of the event. They'll be like, what army I'm going to pick, what am I going to do, what army list am I going to do? So what was your decision making went into that?
Well, that's crazy to me, because every other game system I've ever played says you have to submit your lists like 4 weeks prior to the tournament, and then you just locked in and you've got it, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah, that is a significant difference in Infinity. I've noticed a lot of it
being like, hey, you've got 2 lists and you can just choose them the day before. That's crazy to me. That's absolute batshit nuts to me. And it's great because it takes a lot of the pressure off. And if this is, look, the title here says Spotlight number 2, Cancon for Dummies. So I'm assuming we're not talking to the tippy top of competitive tournament players here.
No.
And so my number one biggest, hugest piece of advice ever is, and this is going to sound, I don't know if you're going to like this actually on this podcast, might be a bit controversial. Take one list. Don't take one list. You don't need two lists. Like if you want to win the tournament, you probably need two. But if it's your first tournament, you're not going to win the tournament, and it doesn't matter. It's like no one's there to win. There are a few people there to win, okay, but no one's there to win. And so I had the most fun ever at my first Infinity tournament, where I just took one list and I didn't have to. The pressure is just off, and that's, I guess, the larger point that I'm getting at here is do everything you can to make it easier, because playing a game of Infinity is tough, and it's mentally strenuous. There's a lot of decision fatigue, and quite often the people that do well at tournaments are the people that can last 5 games of Infinity over 2 days. And I've heard countless stories of people that are like, you know what, I got to game 4 and my opponent was put me in this really tough position, and I just said like, screw it, whatever, and I just did a silly thing and I lost the game or whatever. So everything you can do to make, like if it's your first tournament especially, everything you can do to just make the gaming part easier and funner is the best. You've just got to, because the less decisions you make and means the more you can focus on each game, means also if you haven't had heaps of time to practice with your list, then you just have one. You don't have to practice with 2 lists. You've already cut your prep time in half gaming wise, and you know what all your units do better, and it's just a stress-free time. So that's my hill, and I'll die on it.
I have to say I quite like that idea. I mean, I've been getting a few lists through in my messenger recently from people going, I need my second list. Like, what do you think of this? Is it different enough from my first list? I'm like, not really. I don't know what you're trying to do. So yeah, I think that's good advice. Yeah, select your army, just make one list. And then and it also means you don't have to paint as much either, right? So how's your painting? Yeah. How's your painting been going for the event? Did you set yourself any goals?
When I got into the current army that I'm playing, Foreign Company, I decided that I wanted to paint it all like the box art, like in the official as it gets, sort of color schemes, and I wanted to just finish that faction, kind of, or like have at least a couple of lists of that faction. So I'm done. I've finished painting, apart from the ITS extras. I just have enough models painted and based and everything to that faction. But as we touched on earlier, I spend a vast amount of time painting, and I know that's not for everyone.
And then, but then when it comes to your own miniatures, do you just like smash through them, or do you put a lot more effort into them than compared to your commission painting?
It really depends. It's an interesting thing, painting miniatures, because there's no one to tell you when to stop. And
usually my wrist tells me to stop.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like when you look at the model you've painted, if you go, sweet, like I'm happy with that. If you and yourself are happy with it, that's awesome. That's all you need to do. And so for this particular Foreign Company project, I've gone a bit above and beyond. I spent a bit of silly time just on the details, which is, you don't need to when you're looking at 28mm true scale models from 1 meter, 2 meters away. You cannot tell.
Oh wow! I'm looking forward to seeing them. I won't be at Cancon, but I definitely looking forward to seeing some pictures when.
Yeah, there should be pictures of them on my Instagram.
Okay. Well, I'll have to follow you. I'll have to like and subscribe.
Yes, another follower. Danny.paints if you're looking. But
right.
Yeah, but I like the satisfaction from painting I get. Sometimes it's like I really want to do this really beautifully, make it look as best as I can, and that's really satisfying. But what's also really satisfying is just having a cohesive force that looks good from 1 meter away. Okay. And I think that's great. And particularly for a tournament, and that's the beauty of it, is like I get a lot of enjoyment of playing 5 games of Infinity with my meticulously painted little toys. And I'm one of those people that gets attached to certain characters or ideas, even if they're suboptimal, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to see what I can do with this character this game. But if you're more focused on the game and how your force works on the tabletop and how you're going to beat your opponents or try out different tactics to win scenarios, that's what you're going to get satisfaction from. Like, you don't need to pressure yourself into trying to make your painting amazing for a weekend tournament.
Yeah, I think you touched on at the start there was like sometimes Cancon feels like a capping off of the year, even though it's the start of the new year. But it's like it's either a capping off or it's a beginning off anew. And people I think do tend to go above and beyond for this event, which is great.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's particular prizes at the event for. I mean, I know there's painting prizes, right? But I don't know why it is that whenever I go to Cancon, I see such amazing work on the tabletop. Like from like Age of Sigmar to Bolt Action to Infinity, it's always really good quality.
Yeah, and it's I feel like because it's a landmark event and people want to, it's usually quite national because obviously we all know that no one actually lives in Canberra. No one's there. It's a barren wasteland.
It's just politicians and police.
Literally, it's the nuclear wasteland of Australia. It's the ash wastes. But everyone congregates, and it's usually one of the biggest events, and everyone's there to see what you've done and what you've been working on. And so there are people that will be like, they'll finish the Cancon weekend and be like, right, what's my Cancon project for next year? Which is great. I'm going to send you, because I'm also guilty of that. I'm just going to send you right now, while we've got all of this time on this very long form podcast. I'm just going to send you a photo of my Cancon project from a few years ago now. But it's ridiculous. There you go. You can enjoy that in your own time.
Excellent. I will not be putting this up on the video in a second.
Private, spicy stuff.
All right. So we'll move on from painting up and choosing your army to getting in the practice, getting the reps. So you may have mentioned there before that you have had a couple of events since you started playing. So how's your practice been like for this event, and have you done anything to improve, I guess?
Nope. No, and I am.
And that's fine.
No. I think it's great. I'm just approaching this tournament very, very casually, as we talked a little bit about earlier. And in terms of, I think the one main thing with Infinity in particular, if that's the system you're playing, which of course it is because it's the best system, is just and I think you've even got in the notes here somewhere, Kev, timekeeping. Yeah. Finishing a game of Infinity in tournament times, it's actually quite difficult, especially if you're new and you haven't got practice in. And so that's the main reason that I sneak a game in, or have been sneaking a game in every now and again over the last few weeks, because I know that I get analysis paralysis at every small decision, at every ARO, and I can take a long time to play. And so and the important thing about this is that you might be there to, like me, be casual, have fun, hang out with everyone, and just play some fun games of Infinity. But there are players there that really are looking to win the tournament and are like really going for guts for glory. And it's real. I think it's really important that everyone that goes to a tournament has the respect for every other player to let them enjoy it in their own way. I think finishing games is really important. Like if you don't finish a game, it feels bad for everyone. There's no positive outcome there. And so I think, and it's once you get a little bit of practice in, that's why you take one list. And that's why you don't spend too much time painting your army to competition standards. You just get something you're satisfied with. You take one list, you get a couple of reps in, and if you can finish your game in 2 hours or whatever it is, 2 hours and 15 minutes, golden.
And like what you said about taking one list means that you're more familiar with that list, right? You've just been playing this one list over and over and over and over again, and even if you're not very good, like you're not as experienced as a player, you'll know how to play your list. You'll know what each piece does. You won't be like, oh, what do I do with this piece? This piece does
Yeah,
and that all feeds into timekeeping, right? So then you're gonna know
for sure.
this is my battle plan this is my battle plan for this mission. This is my battle plan if I go second. This is my battle plan if I go up against, because because you've had
Yeah.
enough reps and you know what your army can and can't do.
Even the
Um,
simplest things, like if you're spending time checking range bands or what your BS stat is, like that's dead time.
yeah, no, that's a really
um,
good point. Yeah, really good
but
point. Yeah,
I
like
think even if you're not there to win, it's going to be more enjoyable playing 5 games. You won't be so drained and tired at the end of it if you just know your army, and just even if you're not there to crush people beneath your sandaled feet, you're going to have a better time if you're a little bit prepared.
yeah, I mean, I had like, and as an example, quickly, I mean, I had a game last week with Rama, and I haven't had a game since for several weeks. Since it was a brand new list, and I was playing it, going, I don't know what this person's stat is. I have no. Let me look it up, and like that just takes time. It's
Yeah,
like is my Fev 12 or 13? Is my armor 1 or 2? Is my, and sometimes
yeah,
actually, and sometimes often you just go, I'll roll the dice and see if it matters. You know, because
yeah,
a change of 5% really doesn't make much of a difference. If you roll a 1, you've probably passed. If you roll a 20, you've probably failed, unless we're talking about armor saves.
yes, yeah, yeah,
It's one of those things. You're just like, oh, it's 23 my CC. Fuck it, roll it. Find out later.
exactly.
So I think
Let's see
that's
if
a
it matters.
very good point when you're playing against, and also even like when you're playing against experienced players, they'll probably know your list better than you might do.
Yeah,
You know,
very often I've had people really help me with my own list.
yeah, it's just like, oh, what's my the BS of my Fusilier is 12. You need
Exactly,
12s. You need 3 dice on
exactly.
12s. Like
Yeah.
that's, I
And if
mean,
it's really important to not get intimidated by these people either, because often I find the people that are the best at Infinity, like the people I've played who are like I'd say among the best in Australia, are quite often the nicest. Like because there's no one's there to like get you, no one's there to like trick you and trick you into losing the game. Haha. Everyone wants to have a good game of Infinity. Everyone wants to win on their own merits because they have outsmarted you and tactically positioned themselves to better play the scenario.
yeah.
And
Want
no
to
one's
want to
there
help
to
you. They want to
ruin your
help you,
time.
and they want to make sure you have a good time, because then they have a good time, and it's
Exactly.
all a good time. So tinkering, yep. Yeah, so the advice for, yeah, we've given some advice.
Yeah,
So
the tinkering the list point, don't do it. If you're not gonna if you and let like if that's your joy, absolutely. But if you don't have to tinker
my
if you
first
don't.
Infinity at Cancon was probably one of my worst weekends ever. I think I
Oh
finished
no.
40. I think I finished 45th, and it was because I never settled on a list. I never quite figured out what list, and they were kind of the similar, but there was a couple of elements I would change, and then I would like change back. And we got to the weekend, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with this list. And I had I mean, still had a fun time, but as far as my games went, I had a pretty shit time, and I blamed it all on myself. Like I blamed it all on me. I didn't know what to do. Didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to be smart, and it ended up being a bad, not great, not a good time. So, meanwhile, like a couple of years later, and obviously with experience, you take a list that you're familiar with, you take an army that you're familiar with, and then also you just kind of stick to your guns and just make something work. And then
Yeah,
even if you don't do as well, you'll feel better because you'll feel like you did the best you can, and you didn't
yeah,
hamstring yourself off your own list. Even though, like people say, it's not your list, it's you. Well, like, I mean, it is you, but you make your list. Like
yeah, yeah, exactly.
you make a shit list that you can't operate. Then yeah, then you're gonna have a bad time. So
My final tip on lists is, you know how I said make one list.
yep.
I'm gonna go even further with that one. When I first Infinity tournament, I had the best time ever. One list, one combat group.
Ooh. I thought you were about to say one less that you didn't make. Like net
Oh,
less that shit. Just find somebody who
you know what?
plays.
I didn't make it either.
Oh, but it does take a little bit that out of it as well, because you're just like, well, he didn't
I
make
think
it.
it's helpful if someone shows you what models do, and it helps you learn the game better as
I know,
well.
and I find that just as a segue, like as a side point there, like whenever I see somebody posting a list, um there will always be these people online who will be like, "What's the list trying to do?" Oh, I don't like seeing people's lists because it depends on the player. Does it fuck? Like there comes a point where like every list kind of like you can see a list and you can see what you would do with it. What you would
Yeah.
do with it, Danny, isn't that different. Like,
Well, listen, what I would do with the list, probably most sane people wouldn't because I'm not very good. But I know in general what you're saying is true.
yeah, like it's like if someone wants to post a list, there's nothing wrong with net listing in Infinity, um, if it helps in you,
It's not the
especially
same as other systems, net
no,
listing and
especially if it
yeah.
helps a new player understand like what is good in a game, and then they can at least do reps with this list and go, oh yeah, okay, I can feel how this list is supposed to work, and then they can change it to suit their own
Yeah.
preferences.
Like,
But like,
these are the rules interactions that are good or that will help me to do what I want to do in the game. Like
yeah.
it's nothing but a positive experience.
But just blankly saying to people like, oh, well, like, I can't build your list because, man, it's all about how you feel about list. And be like, no, it's not really though, is
Less
it?
than helpful.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But anyway, moving on. So we've chosen an army, we've built our army, we've play tested our army, we've painted our army. It's time to pack our army up and send it on its way to Cancon. So I'd love to know what your setup is, Danny.
Yeah. So bring deodorant. that's the elephant in the room with Cancon, and I'm more experienced at Cancon than I am with Infinity. But my first and main point is bring deodorant.
Bring
It's summer
deodorant
in Canberra. The air conditioning in these massive halls is not phenomenal. You will be sweaty, and you're in a hall with sometimes hundreds of other people. Bring deodorant. Personal hygiene. Shower every day. Personal hygiene, very important. Just do it. That's all. Anyway,
100%.
the other stuff that I bring is not too much, and that's why I love Infinity, is because you can get away with not having.
And I actually think I have a photo here of your setup. Oh no, that's not your setup.
Nope.
That's my setup.
That's not it.
That's not your setup. There it is. Found it.
Hey!
Yay!
There
All
we
right.
go.
So this is Danny's setup. Is this what you're actually bringing? Is this what you're bringing to Infinity to Cancon?
Yes, literally yes. Apart from the dice tray, because I've got a folding one which just will pack better.
That's a pretty cool looking dice tray.
Yeah, that's my logo for my YouTube channel.
Let's get close up of that shit. Look at that. That's pretty cool.
That's the Danny Paints logo.
Oh wow, there you go. Another thing I didn't know about you. There we go. It's nice.
But yeah, this is like the essentials basically, and I put all this in a small, just a little small backpack, like a Fuel Raven, one of those little mini backpacks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Just to carry it all around. You can put it in a Woolies shopping bag if you want. Doesn't matter. Let's go through it real quick. I've got my case, a small miniatures case, because Infinity has so few models, and I love it. And
is
so
that
you
a
just have a
nice dice case?
No, it's Feldherr, which is a German company that makes. This is actually, the foam is custom cut for X-Wing, another system. Not too many systems, but it works really well for Infinity. And we'll just go through it real quick. There's the Feldherr bag, which is great because it has the slots for all the miniatures down the bottom and some up top. And then, as you can see, dice, a mini tape measure, which is super handy. My silhouettes, all my tokens, and some markers for just random stuff if I don't have the marker for it. They're just painted bases. Mm-hmm. All the templates, etc., and my cards in the top zip of that bag, which is why I love that. That bag's called the Feldherr Mini.
That's a good bag. Okay, yeah.
And the only addition I'd make to the bag would be a command panel, if and when I can get off my ass and buy one. Yeah,
so you use so you have all your tokens in that. Are these the cardboard ones from the starter sets?
No, these are the 15mm tokens from Micro Art Studio.
Oh right, yeah, okay. Do you like the 15mm ones over the 25?
Yeah, I've got a weird thing about having more tokens on the board than there are models. I don't know. I'm a fan of it. I like the cinematic nature of a game, and so I really like the small tokens.
Yeah, cool.
And also probably better, just space wise.
Yeah. So what's this bum bag going on here? What's going on with
well, that's the hot secret. We're gonna leave that till.
Okay. Well, no,
the bum bag is the best thing ever. At a tournament, if you've got your little so depending on what it's like, table space might be quite squished. You might be right up against other people playing their games. You don't want to be knocking their miniatures, doing anything. And so the bum bag is just the stuff you need. Your tape measure in the bum bag. Your dice in the bum bag. A couple of maybe like tokens that you don't, maybe your camo tokens as well, like one sort of token.
Prone tokens are really useful.
Prone markers, yeah.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that. Dice, tape, prone marker, and maybe your phone for your list or whatever.
That's a really good idea, actually. I like that idea of having it, because I'm often like, where to put my dice? My dice are over here. But then I used to put the tape measure on my, like, like slide it into my jeans like a tranny, and then I'd be like, where's my tape measure gone? I can't find. Oh, it's my pocket. It's like,
it takes a little bit of getting used to playing with a bum bag on, but once you just know where your things are in your bum bag and you just put them back there every time, it's so good. It's a game changer.
Especially for the space thing. The space thing makes a big difference because you don't always have that space to put stuff down, like you said. I think that's quite a good idea, actually.
And also the gummy bears. Gummy bears in the bum bag.
Golden bears. Nom nom.
As you can see, there's also right next to them the Xbox scent deodorant.
I know. Isn't that the scent you're trying to avoid? Like,
it's
the gamer scent.
But yeah, any deodorant. Be wary of spray deodorants inside. Some people are allergic.
I tend to take the roll on myself. Yeah.
But having a can is good to be like, hey, you need some deodorant? Hop outside and spray this on you.
Right. Yeah, as a bit of a sharing thing. Yeah, I quite like that idea. Yeah.
Dice tray with a nice flat bottom, because there's nothing worse than the feel bads of not having a clear and communicable system of rolling your dice.
Cock dice as well.
Exactly. I tell my opponents, I just roll in the tray. Everything that's out of the tray is not a dice roll. If I'm rolling in that tray.
I quite like that as well. I'm often an advocate for rolling in the tray, but very quickly in a game of Infinity, you start rolling around where the action's going on, and that doesn't bother me. But I do like maybe laying it out with your opponent at the start. I will roll everything in the tray. If it doesn't roll in the tray, it doesn't count.
Yeah. And then I usually put it equidistant to my opponent so they can see all my dice rolls. It's really important in Infinity.
Yeah.
Even if you trust your opponent implicitly, that who knows, they might have misread the dice if they picked it up after 5 seconds, like a 0.5 of a second. So
yeah,
that's a big one. A notebook and pencils, because the best thing to do, especially if you're a little bit new to the system like me and you get carried away like me, is to write down, and you can write this down before, you don't have to do it at every game, but write down the objectives for the winning conditions for the scenario you're playing on a page, have those, and have like maybe some little like things that you told yourself you wanted to try or do or whatever. So you're like, if I go second, I'm going to put these 2 models up on Aero. And then you don't have that thing afterwards where you're like, I was planning on putting my sniper there the whole time, but then I forgot and I got carried away. And so you can actually, it's a great way of just staying in the game.
It's a great little reminder as well, because sometimes you will go in with that mindset, and then you might come up against an opponent who maybe throws something like a curveball at you, like a deployment that you weren't expecting, or a tag that you're like, oh shit, a tag. Yeah. And then you get like flustered and you're like, I'm gonna have to make this my reserve. I'm gonna have to make this my reserve model, or I'm now gonna have to stand this thing up in Aero. But then sometimes you look at your notes and you're like, no, stick to the plan. Like, this is like this surprise thing they've deployed is not that big a deal. I'll just stick to this and go continue on, because I can't tell you how many games I've lost from like my opponent just doing something random and then going, okay, what I'll do is I'll stand this thing up because blah blah blah, and then it dies and I'm like, I didn't want that, I didn't mean to lose that thing.
Always happens. And it's also, if in case you're like actually likely to win games, which is not me, it's really good to just keep a track of the score if it's a scenario where you score during the scenario, because there's nothing worse than working out at the bottom of turn 3 that actually you didn't have to make that risky maneuver because you were in front, or the other way around, being like, I actually needed to score 2 more points that I could have easily done, but I didn't because I didn't know what the score was.
Yeah, definitely. And classifieds are a common one there. People will forget that they had the classified, they could have done the classified, or that they did the classified and it didn't matter, or whatever it is.
And then last thing there, water bottle. Take water. You're gonna need it, especially if you have some boozy nights, which is more likely than not. Infinity makes my brain hurt like nothing else, and so staying hydrated. In fact, probably I don't have it in the photo, but probably take some Panadol.
Oh yeah, no, definitely take painkillers. Like I always have a bag of ibuprofen and paracetamol, and a little tube of Hydrolyte just to throw into my drink ball.
Put that stuff?
In your bum bag.
In your bum bag. In your bum bag. That one there's got
fanny pack.
And then also it has the added bonus of you can wear it out and they don't let you into any venues because they think you're selling drugs.
I can just see Val now rocking up with a bum bag at Cancon. It's gonna look so good.
Val, I've got a spare one. You can borrow it, mate.
Oh, he's not gonna have that because I saw it a lot in Europe. Is like men wearing bum bags across themselves like that, like it's on the chest.
Matching tracksuit. Matching tracksuit at Cancon.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like the Italian man starter pack.
Yeah,
no, the water bottle is a big one for me. I think we ran Burn City Brawl in 1 year, and I was like, please take your own water bottle because the water at the tap is fine. You don't need to go and like buy more water. You can just fill it up, and
depending on the schedule of the event, you might not have time to.
You might, exactly, might have time. Yeah, go queue up. There's people in front of you ordering burgers and chips. You just want to get some water. Have an empty water bottle. Fill up in the bathroom. It's fine. Like. The water in our taps is like at least everywhere except South Australia. I would drink.
No, Brisbane water's disgusting.
Is it? Okay.
Brisbane water's filth. Never drink Brisbane water. Sorry, Brisbaneites. I lived there for years. I can say that. And I think Cancon actually has dedicated like water filling stations.
Oh, did they?
That's
okay.
Last time I was there anyway. Like, you know those little trailers they have at festivals where they're like...
Oh, yeah. No, I feel like last time I was at Cancon, I had to go refill mine in the toilet, which was not great when there's some guy taking like a shit at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just, you're like, it's not tainted, but it's tainted. It's
yeah.
It's bad. This water's bad. All right, okay, moving on. We will. So here's. We've already kind of touched on this, but it was just a sort of things you never leave for big events without. So we've already touched on painkillers, water bottle, deodorant, but we also want to talk on things like such as like printed army lists. So,
big one.
Yeah, that like it seems to be a thing of like it seems to be a mandatory thing that a lot of people ask for. Not many people care, but I think it is important to have it because you will be up against a new player who might not know what your army is, and you rattling off what your army does is not going to stick. So it's always nice to have something you can give your opponent so that they can refer back to. And also you can refer yourself to.
Yeah, and like if you're like, midway through game 3 on day 1 and you had to call your mum to let her know that you're safe at the big scary event and your phone dies or your tablet dies and you're like, oh... Sorry, can you just go into Infinity Army and look up my faction, my unit? What's my BS?
Yeah.
Have it on paper. Just do it. You can put it in your little notepad. Or you can
That's
put it
a good point. And I think some places in Cancon, and I know other venues who have played at, don't have the best reception. And Infinity Army, when it's not in a good reception area, will just reset the app, and you've got to open your army again. And you're like, oh, I was just looking at this a second ago.
Yeah.
Paper army lists.
A requirement, but also very handy.
Yeah, paper lists. Water bottle. I don't know. Some people do spare tape measures because I've had spare tape measures explode on people during events. Super glue. Someone always drops a mini on the first, on the first round. And there's some poor soul going, "Has anyone got any super glue? Has anyone got any super glue?"
Yeah, that's me.
So I always like to have some super glue on me. I mean, I don't often tend to. Or the last time I had super glue on me, it was like expired. It like solidified in my bag.
All right, I'm gonna be hot take Dan again for 1 hot second. Don't bring super glue. You don't need to bring super glue. Someone else has it.
Yeah. What's that thing? Is like, I don't need what was it like? The deodorant is making a hole in the ozone layer, so if everyone just stops using deodorant, we'll fill the hole. But then everyone's like, what's one person going to make a difference about? Like, I can't make a difference. I'm just one person. So that's the mentality there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just like,
but you never want to be that guy. But I like going, oh, who's got super glue? But unless it's a terrible break, like you can live with a mini with one arm for a weekend. And
Yeah,
then you'll have the wonderful stories of Steve, the Fusilier with one arm that took down a tag.
that sounds like a pretty good story. Actually, we should write that in. We should do a monthly challenge on that one.
I'll send it in.
Okay, so yeah, so the big events. Some people like to take caffeinated beverages. I tend not to, but I have I do like my coffee in the morning, so I will ensure I have a coffee before I start my games.
Oh yeah.
It helps get everything moving as well.
And then after round one, it's toilet time.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have Julian on the show at the moment, but he would definitely be talking about toilet time if he was here.
That's the perfect time. But you have to finish the game quick so you get there first. Otherwise, it's not the perfect time.
It's not the perfect time. Okay, so we've moved on to now during the event. So this is so we'll get into some points here. So now we're into the event. You've arrived at the event. You've set up the event, and one of the things that a lot of people, especially new players, will have to deal with is meeting a lot of these new people. Now, we've already mentioned that we are a welcoming bunch, but there's always cliques, right? There's always circles of people. So you've spoken about how you just kind of wandered into the mass of them, and they welcomed you with open arms. But is there any ways that you would sort of deal with, I guess, nerves of meeting new people or nerves of walking into a big noisy shed? That might help
it can be overwhelming, like especially if you don't know where to go or what's going on. Absolutely, because despite my vivacious personality, I also actually quite like shy, standoffish when it comes to very new people. I'm like, hello. But what I've done in the past as well is you can just chat or just find your table and get your stuff ready. Make sure you're ready to go if you're feeling like too nervous to approach a big group of people, because guess what? You're going to be face to face with one person for the next 2 hours, and you'll be chatting, you'll be playing the game, and then now, shy people of the world, now's your chance. You go, hey, Kev, was it? Yeah, who'd you come here with? Oh, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, is there like an official gathering for Infinity players on Saturday night, perhaps? And yes, you'll find out. And you know what's even better? If they don't know, you can be like, oh, well, me neither. We're both here for the first time. Awesome. How's your experience? And so that's like a really good way of, because tabletop wargaming is social. Like it's a collaborative narrative experience.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, if you're not a nerd. And it's a really social thing. You can just sort of chat to your opponent, and if they don't know anyone, great. You have a buddy to find and meet people with, and if they do, great. You can jump in and chat to those guys and see where they're from.
Yeah, and I really like that as well. Like not just making the conversation all about the game that you're playing, because you're going to be playing the game. Sometimes that 5-10 minutes in between saying hello to deployment or to turn one can be a good opportunity to kind of be like, like you see, ask the questions like, where are you from, where are you staying, who are you with, is this your first time, how long have you been playing, and you can get some really I've had some great conversations with people over the years, especially at NovaCore last year. I had like every player that I 4 out of the 5 players I think I'd never met before, so I got to know all of them. And also from doing the cast, it's always funny because they're like, I recognize your voice, and I'm like, oh. And then that creates a conversation as well, and it's usually very funny and a little bit embarrassed. Like I'm usually a little bit embarrassed and shy as well, so it helps break the ice and calm those nerves. Although another way that people tend to deal with nerves is with alcohol, which is I don't have a problem. But Cancon is alcohol free, or at least for most people, as far as I'm aware. I'm aware of the AOS community.
The inside there's alcohol free for sure.
Yeah.
If you're a particular subspecies of Age of Sigmar player and you're camping in the parking lot, there may or may not be utes filled with ice and beverages.
That's pretty incredible. I'm quite envious of the AOS community. I mean, like we have what, maybe 50 players for Infinity Cancon this weekend, and what, AOS 250, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think the hashtag for the tournament organizer, everyone keeps adding in with the hashtag make it 300.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, it's a really big event. Infinity's better though, guys. Play Infinity.
Yeah, so I guess advice for new players would be, yeah, just go up, say hi. You'll be playing 5 people over the weekend, so
Yeah.
get to know them.
I mean, with zero effort on your own behalf, you'll meet 5 new people, and chances are you'll meet 5 new people that are great. And if you like to have a beverage, find out where the beverages are, because they are existing for sure. It's a big social event. People are really excited. People are showing off their new projects. They're doing their tournament things. Like, if you win the tournament, you got bragging rights for the rest of the year. It's a big event in the community, and it's a really lovely gathering. And there's definitely going to be dinners that people will go to, or venues that everyone will end up at afterwards, particularly like a group of people from the same system. And in fact, if you don't know what's happening, guys, find Kevin, ask him. Kevin will know. Pressure's on now, Kevin.
Except I won't be there, so you'll have to find Val.
Find Val.
Oh no.
Do we recommend Val?
I think Val's pretty good.
He's the nicest person ever, but he might already just be like 6 beers deep.
Or lamenting over his two less he chose.
I reckon send me a DM on Instagram and rage at me if you don't find out where the event is after asking 2 people.
Tell you what, in lieu of me and Val, we'll just make you our Lost Lieutenant proxy for the weekend. So, if you're lost at Infinity Cancon, just look for the handsome guy with his baseball cap on back to front, and he'll probably be Danny.
And the orange bum bag filled with.
And the orange bum bag, yes, the orange bum bag filled with golden bears.
Drugs. I'm miniatures. Sorry. What? Who said that?
Yeah, that's another way. That's another way to take the edge of it.
We don't condone illegal substance abuse at an Infinity tournament, guys. Come
on. You did touch on a quick thing there about it being it's a convention, right? So there are multiple systems there, but there's not just systems there. There's also a whole
convention,
right?
Yeah,
so there's all these manufacturers of games and buy swap sell and all this sort of stuff going on. So in between games, if you meet somebody in a game who you like, maybe you might, well, hey, do you want to go check out the buy swap sell stall, or go have a wander around the con?
Get a drink, get dinner, elope, move to a new country,
see where the night takes you. I know of a few Cancon babies that have come about. So
oh my gosh,
make it happen.
I don't. Wow. But yeah, that's one thing I would recommend if you do finish a game early, or you have time somewhere, which you might not because it gets really busy. But if you have time somewhere, check other stuff out. There's if you're into painting and stuff, the Crimson Brush is a painting competition for the best painters in Australia. That's upstairs in the middle somewhere. There's amazing stuff up there. The buy swap sell, if you can get in early, the line is always huge, so be prepared. But there's some absolute bargains there.
It is massive, yeah.
And even if you're there late, the stuff that some people just pass over, it's crazy. So you might find next year's Cancon army. Who knows?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. Cancon, as much as it is a con, people who play at the 2-day event there are unlikely to see much of it, which is a shame. But it's also you can fit it in if you
for sure.
If you get your timekeeping is good, you can get the con in as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
it's a really good event.
And then I guess with the last couple of things there is, we've already again sort of touched on it as well with just being social and if you do meet people and whatnot. But like your typical evenings at Cancon or big events consist of what, Danny? Like,
Uh,
are you in the bathroom crying, or are you are you popping pill? Like, sorry, not popping. Are you reaching into your bum bag? You reaching deep into your bum bag?
Stop asking about
Are
the
you
bum bag
queuing up
again.
at Moose
Come on, man.
Heads? Like, what's going on?
No, I enjoy a good boogie, a good dance, a bit of a raucous party. Uh, every now and again, obviously not as much as maybe 10 years ago, but I think it's wonderful. I really like the vibrant sort of community that exists with all these nerds that play games with their little toy soldiers. I mean, but everyone's great and everyone's really fun to be around. There's always events, there's always parties going on, and if you're gonna go out for one weekend, make it a weekend with people that have shared interests on, and where it's a big event and it's a special community event for the whole year. You don't need to sleep.
There's a real
Like sleep
feeling. Sorry, what were you saying?
Sleep is completely optional. I like you're not going to die if you don't get one good night's sleep. You're not going to die, and you'll make memories that will last you a long, long time.
Absolutely, and I think there is, going back to that, like the very first one of the very first points about it being like a kind of kindred spirit, is it is one of those weekends where you can, like, any big event, not just Cancon, any big event. We're not just is it is a time where you can sort of be yourself. That you can talk toy soldiers
Yeah,
in a busy bar, and
yeah,
it's the best, because
yeah,
you just can't, you don't get that opportunity very often. Like during a game, you're talking, but you're also playing, and then afterwards you're usually too brain fried to talk about much about it, and then
or you're so buzzed about the game that you played round 3 that you have to tell someone it,
you
and then they
have to
can give
tell
you their
somebody.
analysis of it.
Yeah, and then you're just exchanging stories the whole night. And even if it's just like back in the hotel room, like playing a board game, like it's one of the best ways to wind down after a long day. So, um, and hopefully,
Yeah,
yeah,
no pressure.
you'll be doing it with people that you've just met, and it'll be great.
Absolutely, it's like it's a weird sort of scary thing to go and meet new people and I don't know, be stuck in Canberra for a weekend. That what? But yeah, like it's enough that I went once to like I've been yeah a couple of times. I've been twice ever, and I want to go everywhere every year.
uh,
It's really good.
and I guess in the closing thoughts, because we'll have to wrap this up now because we've just ticked over an hour. Yeah, damn it. Is how do Infinity events differ from other systems? Seeing as you've played a few other systems, you've
Yeah.
been to a few other events. Like, what would be your, I don't know, your take on that?
Um, it's interesting. It's interesting. They don't. I mean, they do. No, they do. It's I don't know. There's a lot of like very funny differences between just like the sort of person that is attracted to a particular type of game and the sort of person that isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not negative or positive. It's just very funny. Like you just meet. There's almost like stereotypes exist for a reason. Sometimes it's really funny. I've just noted that in my own brain. But the common thread is that everyone's so nice and super welcoming. The difference between Infinity and other tournament systems is that I think it's you have more because it takes less time to finish a game. You
Oh, does
have a
it?
little
Well, like last time
well,
than say
depending on what you're coming from or two, but two and a half hours or 2 hours 15 or whatever is a pretty good middle ground. Like I think you would be very hard pressed to finish a game of Age of Sigmar in like 3 hours.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
I think I haven't played in a long time now, but so it feels snappier. It feels a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Um,
And it's
and
five, and it's fun. Infinity's 5 rounds. Other systems. I played a
sometimes,
I've played a Kings of War at CanCon with 7 rounds,
oh my
and
god,
that it's 4 rounds on day one. So I can't even do fingers right now. 4 rounds on day
yeah,
one and 3 rounds on day two. I don't have to do fingers. It's like I'm talking anyway. But and
it's a podcast.
it's
It's an
just
audio
too
medium.
it's too much because it's 2 hours per round as well. It's just too much.
Yeah,
5 just seems like the standard, but I don't know if some systems do
yeah.
less or more.
Yeah, Age of Sigmar was doing 6 for a while, which is
Right.
crazy.
Okay. And you sort of mentioned that it's a bit stricter as far as like submitting lists. Or are there any other differences in that sort of
yes, yeah.
lead
So
up that's
the
different?
list submission and stuff is much more relaxed with Infinity because you put it through on OTM and stuff, and so it's just very chill.
Mm-hmm.
You have less models to carry around, which is why it's a great tournament system. You don't have to like lug around a massive case full of thousands and thousands of dollars of precious models that someone might kick.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really good if you want to choose a system to play a tournament in. Infinity is a really good one. And then also, I mean, you've talked about this so many times on this podcast. I hear it almost every episode. But in Infinity, it's always your turn.
True.
Yeah, the ARO system and the way the game works means that that's what's tiring about it, is that you're always playing. Like you can't go to the bathroom while your opponent does their movement phase. So you but you
Yeah.
have around the game, you have more time to, bathroom breaks, get a drink, get food, whatever. But I think that's great. And it means you're interacting with your opponent more. And it means you're probably chatting with them more about funny stuff that happens or whatever. And so I think it's a really, really positive experience. Really good
Okay.
game to play a tournament with.
Great. Oh, excellent. All right. Well, I think that's about it.
There's one more question there just after that one you just asked me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah yeah. Is Cancon? Oh sorry. Yeah. So you've been to Cancon a few times. I've been to Cancon a couple of times, and one of the things that always comes up about Cancon is that it's a special type of hell.
Yes.
as much so as much as we just be like, go to Cancon, you'll have a great time. It's also hell on earth sometimes.
But also, where's your sense of accomplishment if you don't ever overcome any adversity? And the best sort of adversity is the adversity
It's the
you
Mount
create
Everest
yourself.
of Infinity tournaments.
Yeah, like if you just, give yourself a wild hangover and then you've got to get through day 2 of a gaming tournament, do it. You'll have a great sense of accomplishment. You'll probably lose 2 games, but you'll have fun.
And it's not even that, like, I mean, other tournaments are similar to that. When you rock up on day 2 with a hangover, or you rock up on day 1 you've not slept because you've been partying all night, or you just hasn't slept because of nerves or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But CanCon has that additional element of it being in January in a shed that isn't really very well air conditioned, and people don't know whether to leave the doors open or to shut them. and then there's a guy playing 40k next to you. He's in his underwear, and you're like, "What's going on? Why am I here?"
Shirts can and will come off at various other systems. Don't know about Infinity. I think Infinity players, I was talking about differences before. Infinity players seem to have a little more decorum than most other wargamers. And so I don't often see people with like text letters on their chest with their shirts off screaming.
Yeah. Actually, that's just made me think about one other thing that I would advise on new players, especially at CanCon, but really at any event, is even though it's January, it's hot, do not wear thongs to a big event like this, because your feet will fucking hurt. Like, wear comfortable trainers, like thin socks, and your feet will thank you for it. Because I've been to those events before where I'm like, I'm just gonna wear as little as possible that's within decorum, and my feet arch support. My feet will be sweaty, my feet will be black from whatever's on the ground, and my archers will be killing me. So yeah, definitely wear comfortable footwear.
But 100% singlet and shorts or t-shirt and shorts.
Yes,
you don't usually wear shorts. If you're wondering what do you wear to a wargaming convention? CanCon, the answer is shorts.
Yeah.
It's a sweaty time. And this year, I looked at the weather. Actually, it's not going to be as bad as it has been.
Okay.
But shorts weather. It's shorts.
That's good. And then just for our non-Australian listeners, thongs are flip-flops. Just in case he's just imagining every Infinity player like just cutting around with a thong.
I'm wearing. I don't wear flip-flops, but I wear my thong.
Okay. I mean, it's whatever keeps you comfortable. Whatever
stops. Don't yuck my yum, Kevin.
There's no chafing. There's minimal chafing.
Well, look. Wow, couldn't tell you.
All right. What else? Is there anything else you want to touch on before we sign off tonight?
If you, I don't know. I feel like this is a great episode for people that haven't ever been to a tournament, and God, just do it. It's going to be great. You're going to meet lots of people, and you know what? If you have a terrible time, you'll have stories about that one time you had a terrible weekend. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world, unless it's like your wedding or something. Go to your wedding instead. But otherwise, yeah, go to Cancon. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do it. Danny Paints. Subscribe. Click like. Smash that like button. Smash it. And you can edit that out if you like.
No, that's in. That's there. That's great. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Danny, for coming on and chatting tonight about events. Had a really good chat, and I think it.
Sorry, our episode of Spotlight was spot long.
It's a bit more of a floodlight.
Yeah, floodlight. Call this one floodlight.
Floodlight. It's only just over an hour. I keep saying as it takes over to significantly more than an hour, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm glad.
Just cut out all the bits that I said, and we'll be good.
I'm glad we got it out, and yeah, it's giving me the warm and fuzzies about tournaments, so that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, if that's all we've talked about, if that's all to talk about tonight,
I've been Val, you've been Kevin, and this has been
Spotlight.
Spot Flood.
Damn it, forgot. Good night.